anything. And the man went away and began to publicize the whole matter. How many of you here have done that in your own lives, where you experienced something great and exciting, and when you're told not to tell anyone about it, you can't help but not do it exactly what you're told and share the news immediately with another person? And I'm sure a few of you guys have, right? I know I have in my own life. And that's exactly what we just heard happen in the gospel. Jesus tells the leper, the man who had leprosy, not to tell anyone what just happened to him. And what did he do? He went and told everyone. In the first reading, we hear from the book of Leviticus that all those who suffer from leprosy are supposed to cry out, "Unclean, unclean," especially when they draw near to others or when others draw near to them, so that people know that they have this illness, this gruesome illness, and to let them know to stay away from them. But again, in the gospel, we hear that changes because Jesus goes to this man who has leprosy, touches him, and makes him clean again. How many of you, if you were in the leper's shoes, after being cured from such a gruesome disease, will go out to the world crying out with joy about what just happened to you? How you were healed and given a new life through your encounter with Jesus Christ. I know that I would again. That I would be overjoyed with that chance of new life that I was just given. Because when you're a leper back in that day, your life is basically over. No one would dare come near you. No one would touch you. You can't touch anyone else. Your life is over. It's basically living a life of hell. But here's the truth. We have already been given that new life. At our baptism, we have been cleansed of that disease, that original sin. And through baptism, our souls have been marked for Jesus. So like the lepers, but not like the lepers, because of that mark that we received in our souls on that day of our baptism, instead of going around crying out, "Unclean, unclean," we should be, as Christians, we should be going out saying, "Jesus saves. I love Jesus," because of that new life that we've been given at our baptism. And that's exactly why you guys are all here tonight, right? Cold, chilly Sunday evening after 9 with class or work tomorrow morning. You guys are here because of that love that you have for him. But what does that exactly mean? That mark on our soul that says we belong to Jesus. Why is it that we should be going out to the world and crying out that Jesus saves? Why is it that we should be proclaiming our love for Jesus? As a people who profess to be Christians, what we are professing is that we are disciples of Jesus Christ, followers of Jesus. And because we profess that should be what we are doing in our lives. We should be doing what he has taught us from what we hear in Scripture and from what has been handed down to us through his apostles. To be like what St. Paul says in that second reading, be imitators of me just as I imitate Christ. And I will confess that in my own life, I haven't always lived out that life perfectly. Before I had entered seminary, I didn't know what it meant to be a Christian. I'm a cradle Catholic, so I was born and raised as a Catholic, but I only went to church every Sunday to accompany my mother so that she wouldn't go to church by herself. That was the only reason why I went. But then one year, while I was in college at the University of Minnesota, I was asked to be the youth minister at my home parish because they were undergoing some changes and they needed my help in that area. I declined the first few times, but then I finally gave in and said, yes, I'll help out. And it was only then that I started to understand a little bit about what it meant to be a Christian. Because for the first few months, of trying to lead the youth group, all I did was take them excuse me. All I did was take them bowling. We had picnics, and what else do we do? We'd play sports, right? Fun things, because that's what I like doing. But it was after that, after a few months of that, I started to think to myself, how is this any different from any other school, club, or group? You know, this is supposed to be a church youth group, you know, so it should be faith-based, right? We should be doing something more aligned with the faith. And so that's where I hit a turning point in my life. I took a little time to reflect and gained some self-knowledge, you know, and that's something that is not easy to do, you know, to gain a little self-knowledge, to know a little bit about yourself. And I gained a little bit of that during that time. I realized that I'm supposed to be a role model as a youth minister. I'm supposed to be showing these young people how to live the faith. I'm supposed to be teach them what the faith is. But how could I give to them what I myself did not have? So thank God, at that time I was so blessed to have so many people around me who I could look up to, who I could imitate. Just as St. Paul keeps telling us to imitate him. I truly believe that, you know, God places people in our lives to help us along the way, and he did that for me during that time. And he didn't just put one or two people in my life. He basically put an army around me. You know, I had many priests who I could look up to and ask and go to be mentored. I had religious sisters at the parish who came in and helped us, who I could go to for help. But then I had friends around me too. And that's so important, and you guys know that too, I'm sure, to have people to have friends who cared about you, who could help you along your journey. So having all those people in my life helped me to grow closer to Christ, to grow stronger in my faith. But besides them, the most important ones, and the ones who actually kept driving me to grow deeper in my faith, and who drove me to live out my faith more faithfully, were the young people I was supposed to be a youth minister to. It was because of their desire, their thirst and hunger for Christ, that I wanted to learn more about who Jesus was and what the faith was, so that I could try to help feed that hunger, that thirst. And through that desire to want to serve the young people more, that was when I heard a call from the Lord to be a priest. It wasn't totally certain at first, but that's where it seemed to be going towards. Because I was already a youth minister, so I was like, all right, Lord, I don't know what else I could do in my life. I was in dating right then, so I'm like, all right, I guess I'm supposed to go to seminary. All right, Father? So I took a chance. And I actually came here to SJV many years ago. That was right before Father Becker came here. And through much prayer and service, as Father mentioned at the beginning of Mass, now I'm at the pinnacle of my time where I'm preparing myself for my priestly ordination in May. God willing. I still need a bishop to say yes. So, why did I just spend all this time telling you my story? Because I wanted to give you testimony to the life that we are called to as Christians. You know, being marked at our baptism with the love of Christ on our souls, we are called to go out to the world to proclaim him who is the good news. And this is how I have been called. To serve him in the life that we live in the now. To go and share his love to others, just as he did to that leper that we heard in the gospel. Brothers and sisters, As we prepare for Lent this coming week, this 40-day retreat that we will be doing with the rest of the church, I want to challenge each and every one of you to take some time in prayer to ask Jesus, to go to him and say, "Your servant is here. How do you want me to be your disciple? Speak, for I am listening." We have been marked with the sign of the Lord, and it shows clearly on our souls. So let us be faithful witnesses of that love and share it with the rest of the world, starting with those around us here on this campus.